So today I want to talk about the Proud Boys demonstrations in DC on December 12th. I need to talk about this because the things that I have seen from the Proud Boys only confirms everything that I've known, that they are a white supremacist organization that are specifically harkening back to a lot of the racial harm that has existed in this country. That they are displaying in full force the amount of privilege that they have as a collective group to commit acts of violence and to perform acts that would inspire fear and terror in other human beings, specifically beings with darker skin colors, in such a way that the police will actually feel comfortable keeping their backs to the Proud Boys in protests. I am, over the course of this video, going to be talking about a few heavy topics, and I'm also going to be displaying certain acts of violence, both physically harming human beings and political statements that inspire a certain amount of harm. And I'm going to be addressing those as I can. But I think this particular video should just come with a general content warning as opposed to me parsing out the specific parts of what timestamps you might be able to see what's going on. With that said, let's jump into this. So this is a scene that was filmed at the protest. And of course, there's no cops in sight. And I agree with this particular person that said, had any of these people been black, there had been police in riot gear and tear gas. Let's just take a look. Right. There we go.
And then there's people getting fed up of people. Oh man, they're getting beat up. They're getting beat up.
Hold up! Where's your scooter at? Where's your scooter?
I just need to point out that this person literally put themselves and their body in between the Proud Boys and these two people who, from what I'm understanding, were not here to protest, but were just two random people attacked on the street. And again, a lot of the information is still coming out and all this, but from what I was able to tell and what I was able to discern, these two particular people were not involved, and this person gets in the way and stops them. And I don't know if it's just me, but this is another situation where a person of color is doing more of the right thing and standing up for people's rights, while you have a bunch of white nationalists basically just kicking the crap out of people. And then you're still going to keep hitting them. They're trying to get away, and you're just going to keep provoking. Like, for real?
Don't fucking come back! Don't you ever come back! Don't come back!
Right! We're trying any of my
Bro, you need to fucking stop! Don't come back! No, that's... Don't ever! Pussy ass fucking bitches! Don't come back here!
Now stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me.
What do you even say to something like that? What do you even say to something like that? How do you defend that position? If you're someone who thinks that the Proud Boys are not trying to commit acts of violence and whatever, what do you say to that? And where was the police? Where was the riot gear? Where was the tear gas? And look, I'm not advocating that people get tear gassed. Being tear gassed sucks. But when you have one group of people, when they protest, and they protest non-violently, and you have the president in a situation where he tear gasses people to move them for a photo op. And on the other side, you have this group of people able to attack random people on the street that are just trying to get out of a bad situation and get away from this fighting that's happening. What exactly does that send as a message? The Proud Boys are violent. They are hearkening back to a very specific time period. If you look at clips that happened in Nazi Germany, like right before the Nazis took power, you'd get these fights on the streets where the Nazi Party would literally break in and have their military fighting against the military of the Communist Party and the Antifa bloc that actually existed there. This feels a little too familiar to me as a historian, as someone who's studied this history. And moving forward, you also have the understanding that they are all saluting and signaling to Marine One as Trump flies over. And this particular person actually used to be a former GOP member. Like, their name is literally GOP vet for Biden. Like, this is not somebody who's making a post from like a leftist perspective. They are now an independent because of the position that the Trump administration has really pushed into with this radical right perspective. And this is signaling. If anybody knows what they're looking at with this, they are signaling very specifically with their hand gestures. And I'm not going to address that more right now. I just don't think that's a worthwhile endeavor. And then the Proud Boys ended up collecting and by collecting I mean they stole a banner from Black Lives Matter. Several of them, actually, from what I've gathered. And they have vandalized them in particular ways that speak to certain historical narratives. I figured we could take a quick look at some of them. And you can hear the level of language that's going off in the background. You can see the fact that they're stomping over the words Black Lives Matter, as if it doesn't have any sort of significance to them that represents actual human lives. To make matters worse, they set one on fire.
Whoa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa! Fuck Antifa!
I can't watch any more of that right now, but I think you get the point. That particular banner was taken from Asbury United Methodist Church in DC, which is a historically black church. And I actually have the public statement from the Reverend Dr. Reverend Dr. Mills, who ended up commenting on what just happened in this particular case of that banner being stolen. Last night, demonstrators who were part of the MAGA gatherings tore down our Black Lives Matter sign and literally burned it in the street. The sign burning was captured on Twitter. It pained me especially to see our name, Asbury, in flames. For me, it was reminiscent of cross burnings. Seeing this act on video made me both indignant and determined to fight the evil that has reared its ugly head. We have been so confident that no one would ever vandalize the church, but it has happened. They go on to say, or the reverend goes on to say, sadly, we must point out that if this was a marauding group of men of color going through the city and destroying property, they would have been followed and arrested. We are especially alarmed that this violence is not being denounced at the highest levels of our nation, and instead the leaders of this movement are being invited to the White House. Yeah, there's actually some evidence to show that some of the leaders might have actually been invited to the White House. One of them bragged about it on Twitter, although the president's denying it, so I don't have any confirmation either way. But how do you not look at that? And how does that not bring the symbol of cross burnings on people's lawns into your mind? How do you not recognize that this is an act of intimidation and an act of violence through proxy? It is saying that we will make you fear. It is a symbol of hatred. And when Antifa is coming up against this, they are speaking out against this hatred. They are speaking out against the violence that society as a whole, and specifically groups like the Proud Boys and formerly the KKK. Oh, even though they still exist, right? But they don't have quite the standing that they once did. And that's because of movements like what has happened in the civil rights movement. That's because of protests and rallies and movements like Antifa. Black civil rights leaders coming out and speaking up against this kind of stuff. Denying the Klan a platform in multiple cities when they demanded it. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself if neutrality in these particular cases, the idea that everyone has a perspective, is really worth it. Is neutrality a good position to be taking when one side is speaking for the destruction of an entire group of people and saying that an entire group of people's lives do not matter? And if you look, they took down another sign from Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church. I have a clip of that, but not really worth looking at. They just tear it in half. They were doing this across the city. And who knows how many more didn't get captured, how many more didn't get put on things. But I need to point something out. I know that there are cherry-picked amounts of people of color at a lot of the MAGA events that have happened and everything. But when you look at what this ideology, especially from the direct perspectives of the Proud Boys, looks like, I need you to look at this image, and I need you to look at this image right here. I was going to try to zoom in, but it's not working right now. I can't see a non-light-skinned face in that crowd. And maybe if I, really looked in, maybe I could find one. But when you look at this particular image, this is white nationalism. This is what this looks like. When I see images of Antifa, I see trans flags. I see Black Lives Matter. I see the flags and skin tones and ideologies of a bunch of people who are banding together that the people like the Proud Boys do not identify as particularly human by evidence of the fact that they're burning the sign that they burned. They don't care about people different from them or other than them. They don't care about anything going on. So if you're looking at this rally and you're coming to some sort of conclusion, well, it's just the left fighting the right. No. The right made the first move by hating people. They actively made a choice a violent, conscious choice. And you could argue that some of them were manipulated or brainwashed into it, sure. But at the end of the day, you have to make a choice and be responsible for the actions that you've chosen to commit. Having dark skin, being black, being trans, being gay is not something people choose. It's something that has been politicized to attack. And people like the Proud Boys are a huge part of the representative population that would love to see an ethno-state in the United States. Whatever their words are, whatever their language is, they know how to play the media game, they know how to twist the language, and they know how to signal boost. Nobody's going to come out and say it until it's too late. When you're actually hearing the words that they're a white supremacist group, when you're actually hearing all of that, that's when it's too late. That's when they feel safe enough to do that. The fact that they feel safe enough to utilize their privilege in this particular way already signals to me that it's gone too far. And where were the cops to stop them? If the cops are supposed to be about law and order, whose law and order are they upholding? Which law and order? Because it was not the law and order of of people of color, rather. It was not the law and order of people of color. It was the law and order of a specific group of white people. It was the specific understanding from the police that they can consistently turn their backs to the Proud Boys because the Proud Boys got their back. I don't know how to make it more clear than that. I don't know how to get that out there other than that. I think I've reached a point in terms of all this that I just wish it was a nightmare that I'd wake up from. I think a lot of people feel that way. But it's not. It's real. And ideas like Antifa and the organized protests that they use are going to have to stand up against this. It's an ideology based entirely on the idea of stopping people like the Proud Boys. With that said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the bell for notification. You can follow me on Twitter and check out my Discord in the description below. With that said, my name is Anarchist Tara, and I hope you enjoyed watching.